Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of LogisticsSales.com, the Mastering Sales series. In today's episode, we will be going into the second episode of Crafting Compelling Emails segment. Today, I am Gail Noonhausen, and I will be your host. And with me, as always, is Damon Graywall.
Hello, hello.
We are so happy to be here today because I really do love writing emails. So last time we focused on writing persuasive emails and the basics of what goes into writing persuasive emails. But today we're taking it a little bit of a step further. So we want to talk about how using research and feedback to make your emails even more effective will ultimately result in better results with your customers. Now, emails that are generic, they oftentimes are going to get ignored. People aren't going to open them. They're not going to get read. They're going to end up at the bottom of the inbox. Emails that are personalized and tailored, they often get replies. So today we're going to be covering quite a few things, but specifically how to research your prospects before you write that email, how using industry insights will add relevance to your email content, how to incorporate feedback from past emails, and how to adjust messaging based on the open and response data so that we can incorporate it for better results moving forward, and then ways to continuously improve your email strategy so that we are always getting better in our emails. Now, Damon, let's get started with the foundation of why research matters. So let's talk about what is critical before sending an email when composing it.
Well, I think first it's getting into that right mindset of saying, why does this really matter? You know, what's the purpose of this email? And then doing the research behind it. We always say the research is that first component that we have to do. And why do we do it? Because we want to show that, hey, we're taking the time to understand our clients. And this is a level of way that we're going to presenting ourselves as a first impression, second impression. But it allows that customer to see like, hey, what are these guys willing to go through for me to be able to service me? And that's the thing we want to show is like, it's we're in the service game. And the better my research is going to be, the more it's going to show in the email that I'm able to write. And that's why the research matters. It's the research ensures that my email is going to resonate with that prospect. It's actually going to mean something to them because I understand them. And it's that first connection piece. So without the research, emails feel more generic and we risk the misalignment with the customer's priorities. And so we don't want to miss any of these opportunities to connect with them personally. And so that good research is going to include, whether it's company news or updates, it's going to include any industry trends, it's going to include the prospect's role and responsibilities. But how do we show that? It's more about our understanding of that data. And again, every time that I mention any of this data into the email, I'm using a connecting piece to connect with it. So if it's their role and responsibility, I'm associating that role with what they might be doing and how I am associating with that role. So if I'm saying, hey, I understand that you're in the sales department of this company, I'm reaching out to you because, again, and I'm explaining that and saying, hey, this is what we're looking for. And I understand that your role and responsibility can maybe help me achieve the result that I'm trying to achieve. And maybe it's that part of that process and just knowing, or, hey, maybe you might be able to help me with this information. So I'm trying to leverage all that information to personalize it. And it's that research and understanding of it that is really going to help develop that personal aspect of where the customer says, okay, hey, this is why I'm getting this email. This is why it's being directed towards me. And so the more that they can relate to it and they know that I've been doing my job to understand them better, I'm going to probably get a better result. And so again, I'm researching all this information to show them that I'm the right choice that is reaching out to them and the right choice for them to kind of proceed that sale with.
Exactly. And I think when you are trying to personalize an email, there is always going to be a way that you can connect with the prospect on the other end. And if you have done your research and you're saying, okay, there's nothing I can find, I don't know how to connect with this person, then you're not digging deep enough. Because there's always pathways that you can find this information. Sometimes I'll even go to Facebook and I'll go look somebody up and just see, do they have any hobbies or interests that we can connect on if I really need to get that information. But a really good place for that is LinkedIn. So if you go look at their previous work history, maybe they've worked at a company that you're familiar with or you've worked with in the past. Maybe they have mutual connections. So those are really easy ways that you can find ways to personalize and connect with the prospect.
Yeah. And that's something that I typically do is that connection piece, is whether it's relating to different industries that we've done similar work with, or relating to when their previous employment locations, to say, hey, you know what, we've worked with this company and this company, and relate that back to their current place, just to kind of show familiarity. And so again, a lot of that research is going to just build that connection piece to let them know that they can trust us.
Exactly. And it's not just about gathering that information, but it's how you incorporate it back into the emails, and how do you make it impactful in the way and the language that you're using to relay it. So when you have done the research, you now have to take it and make it personal and relevant for the prospect to hopefully incite and elicit a response from them. So you want to do things like reference specific company events or milestones. Maybe they just got bought out or went through a merger, and you want to reference that and see, hey, if you were going through a merger right now, are there any disruptions in your operations where you're having to bring in new trucking companies? And if that's the case, we would be a great fit because we have this XYZ experience with the company you just merged with, right? So again, using that connection piece, finding that relevance. Another example would be mentioning industry challenges or trends the prospect might be facing. We used, for example, the Trump tariffs that were happening several months back. It was a big thing in the industry across Canada and in the United States. Businesses across the border being impacted.
Globally.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, of course, globally. But for us specifically in our business, that was our impact. That's where we were seeing it. So we used that for doing some mass marketing to be able to connect with companies and reach out to them and say, hey, what are you guys going through? How can we help you right now? And by doing that, we showed our understanding for their role and their priorities, which is the next step, because you need to take that language away from an us language and change it back to a you language, a them language. You have to put yourself into their shoes. You have to understand the pain points that they're experiencing, and not make it about how we can sell to them and how we can close that deal, but how we can help them. Right. How do we be of service to them?
And sometimes when they're having these mergers happen, it's about offering compassion and saying, hey, if there's any new information that you're requiring, or maybe you're new to the position and your position's changed, so how can we help and assist in those areas too? So I do this a lot with people that are new in their roles. And I just introduce myself and just let them know that we're there to help answer any questions. And that we also understand like they're new in the role. So not to make them feel overwhelmed, but to say, hey, we're actually here as a resource and here to help you, versus try and take from you right away.
Exactly. And we do this by highlighting how our product or service, or even us as person, how we become the solution and how we address their specific pain points, their problems that they're trying to resolve. Mm-hmm. We relay it, we change the language into that of figuring it out, problem solving, coming to a solution, finding a resolution. We become that answer to the question.
And a lot of times it's being proactive instead of reactive. So proactive is knowing that something's going to come into play here. So for example, we talked about the tariffs, but again, if you know tariffs are coming in place at a certain time, get active ahead of time. Tell them about those solutions ahead of time. So a lot of times in our industry, like there's weather events, there's strikes that we're having to deal with. There's, again, these big weather patterns can create so many delays. So we're getting ahead of that and letting them know about that information ahead of time. And so again, providing them with additional solutions ahead of time so that even if they are going through that situation, they're like, oh, hey, that was that company that tried to let us know before these situations came into play. And maybe next time, if my current provider didn't give me that information, then next time I might just choose these guys. Because you know what? I'd rather be informed and be ahead of the pattern so I have enough ability to react instead of being reactive where it could cost the company, 2-3 times more than what it would have cost them if they would have just, put that solution into place in the beginning.
Exactly. Basically, moral of the story is that we have to be intentional with how we format, outline, and then send our emails, and make sure that the messaging is clear and concise when we're doing it to make sure it's getting the results that we want. But even that, we're going to have failures and we're going to have successes, and we have to be able to go back and analyze what we've done to be able to improve. So Damon, can you talk to us a little bit about how we can use that feedback to make improvements in our emails?
For sure. And this is a continual process that has to be done in order for you to get more successful with your email campaigns. It's always understanding that there's continual improvement. But how do we, the big question is, how do we use feedback for that improvement? And so what we are looking for is things like how many direct replies are we getting back to us, right? And the question here is what questions or concerns did my client raise and what's coming back to us? And again, is anything even coming back? Sometimes that's even a bigger thing, is like you'll send an email campaign out and you're like, no one really responded. So, right away, it's a sign for us to say, well, we better, revamp this entire email because something just did not hit. And so again, those direct replies is giving us feedback every time. Those questions are giving us back that feedback every time, that maybe we need to start answering some of these questions into the emails, right? Or again, if these questions are questions that we're directly trying to, obtain from the email coming back, then we know, okay, all right, maybe the job is going really well. And those are the right questions that people are asking, because that allows us to now have that conversation with that client. So again, these email metrics is what we're looking at too, whether it's open rates, click-through rates, response rates. And sometimes we even have links on there. So we're trying to see, okay, are they opening up the links? Are these links working in the email? So there's certain campaign email companies that we use to be able to get these out in mass marketing, and to be able to get those metrics back so we can review it. And then again, craft our emails accordingly once we get that metric data. And lastly is just our teams, right? So what we do is we try to go to other teams in our field and say, okay, what's working for you, right? What type of responses are you getting? And if we notice one of the reps getting more responses than somebody else, a good way to increase your emails is also to have that conversation and say, hey, what can I learn from my teammates? What can I learn from other people similar in my industry? Where else can I get this research to say, what is working and what's not? And, a lot of times I look at like just regular emails I get from my clients and say, which ones am I opening? What do I like to see and receive? And how do I like it to be laid out? I mean, sometimes the layout is all the difference. It could be the same information, but laid out differently.
Exactly. And I just wanted to add a bit of a disclaimer as well, that when it comes to analyzing the feedback from multiple types of sources, we sometimes want to actually do it in tandem. Like if we're analyzing direct reply rates and the email metrics, we might have an email that we send out that has a really high response rate, but maybe the email itself was not direct enough that the replies we're getting are not qualified customers. For example, like in trucking, let's say we send out an email to 10,000 prospects, and all of a sudden we start getting responses back, but it's like, hey, I've got this drayage freight. Hey, I've got this air cargo. Hey, I've got this LTL, and we're a full truckload carrier. So it's like, we were not clear enough in our messaging. Mm-hmm. So you have to look at sometimes both avenues and say, okay, we're getting the proper response rates. That's good. But our messaging is not clear enough because the replies that we're getting are not the right ones.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. And that's, again, the clarity matters, right? So we talked about this a little bit in the previous episode. The clarity of our messaging, the clarity of what we're positioning forward there is going to matter. And so, the feedback, what we're trying to really understand is, which subject lines are the most effective, and what's the value propositions that we have in these emails that are most effective getting us back with the right replies, right? And so we want to see which messaging is actually resonating with those different prospect segments, to make sure that we're hitting the right industry with the right messaging, or the right prospect with the right message. And we're also learning how to adjust our tone and the length of the message, so we're able to get back the right responses. And if we talked about sometimes in the emails, if it's too long, no one's going to read it. And the CTA that we put at the end of the email, the call to action, no one's really even getting down to that level to even respond. So it looks too much like a spam message. So we're trying to, again, highlight the points that need to be highlighted in there. We're trying to increase the clarity of the messages so we can get the right response and feedback.
Exactly. And this is why you have to adjust your messaging based on the data and the feedback that you're getting back from your email campaigns. When you send emails out blindly, you are not going to get consistent responses. You have to test, you have to reiterate, and you have to readapt based off of what you're getting. Okay. So one example that we use quite often is let's say we have a 5,000 person prospect list. We might do an A/B test group. So maybe we send 100 people this version of an email, and then we'll send the same email but slightly tweaked and reworded as our test B group. Then based off of that, we'll analyze and say, okay, who's responding? Okay, we're getting more responses on test A, but test B has better, more vetted responses. They're specific to what we're looking for and they fit our business scope. So it's analyzing that and being able to go back and say, okay, now let's take little elements from this and this, put it together, and maybe we'll do a test C group. So, and there's different ways of doing this, but it's just an example of how you want to be able to look at it and then fiddle with it until you find what's going to work best.
And that just takes a little extra time to make sure that, if we take the little bit of time to test ahead of time, it does take a little bit more discipline. I know it's easy just to hit that one button and send it to everybody and then just see if it works, because sometimes we feel it, but just taking that little bit of time to test group A and B is going to cause a little bit of inconvenience, but long-term gains, because it's going to actually improve your emails. And that's the whole thing that we're trying to teach here, is that continual improvement process is going to help get you the best results and help you in that sales journey.
And realistically, it actually opens up more time for you, because it gives you the ability to experiment with different opening lines, different value statements, and to test them without that pressure of this needs to be the best email I've written, because you're using it as a test. You'll send it out, you'll see how the responses come in. You'll go, okay, this is doing great. I'm going to take this and revise it. Or, okay, I didn't get any responses on this. This is not the best one. And you hit the drawing board again. So it gives you that ability to experiment and to fiddle with it and to fail and to do well and to not do well.
Yeah, and you can actually make this fun, especially in team settings. Trying to see which person can get the most response rates. Have fun with it. In a team, you can say, well, what do you like? Let's try that. Let's try what you like. But yeah, gamify it, make it fun. And sometimes, marketing is fun that way, where I do this all the time, where I just say, hey, let me just try this and see if I can evoke more responses. Let me try this and see what happens. And sometimes just having that friendly competition can actually make it fun for everybody and make it an enjoyable experience.
Exactly. And not to mention, the more buy-in that you get from more people, the faster you're going to get data back. So if you've got 5 or 6 different sales reps also testing on different subject lines and different value adds, you'll be able to see which ones are going to work better a lot faster, because you've got a bigger test pool. So keep that in mind. And then the last thing is just to remember that you can segment your audiences to personalize messages. So let's say, like in trucking, if you are working in full truckload transportation, you might work with various industries. So maybe you work with meat and seafood, maybe you work with pet food, maybe you work with plant and nursery companies. If you can segment your lists into specific industries, into specific location areas, you can start writing more customized emails without having to write an individual email per company, per person. So it gives you that ability to still do mass marketing, to still do sales sequencing, but not have it be too generic.
And that's just going back to that client profile and understanding that you might have had one client profile in the beginning and one avatar, but as you start doing sales, as you start getting feedback, you start realizing that it starts getting segmented, maybe a little bit deeper down and into more different levels and more different type of, again, avatars that you're going to be developing along the way. And each one is going to have to be catered to differently to get the best response.
Exactly. Then Damon, I know you had a quick little list here of some continuous improvement tips for our viewers for how they can improve their email campaigns and continue to make them better and more effective. So let's go through that and talk about what you guys can do at home to be continuously improving your emails. And before I hand it over to Damon as well, keep this in mind. We also have a worksheet with the episode for today that will help you and give you some tips and tricks for improving your email campaign. So we do highly recommend that you download it and follow along throughout today's episode.
Yeah, and that's all about continuous improvement as well. We want you to get better with every episode and have better results with every episode as well. So, doing that part of making sure that you're doing the homework, making sure you're pulling out the worksheets is important, because this is your journey ultimately, and we're just here to help. But when it comes to some of the data and the metrics, when it comes to putting these emails together, it's about that long-term perspective and making sure that if we understand that it's continual improvement, well, the first step of that is making sure that we keep a record of everything that we're doing, and knowing that something that we did maybe this year that may repeat next year and the following year, or even every quarter, or depending on how often you're sending out the same context of this email, that you could always use that same record keeping to look back and reflect and say, what could I have done better? And that's what we want you to do is start reviewing some of these metrics on a weekly basis after every campaign. Even if you think it's done, we'll go back and study it and say, okay, well, what did I do right? What can I improve on? and what works and that we can keep using into every season. So again, collect that feedback from different prospects, put it in a place where you're actually going to keep it in record, right? So whether it's a CRM, whether you have a marketing file, but put these things in a place where you could actually pull them out whenever you can, and be able to review it. So adjust templates according to what's working as well. So if you're having different templates set up, make sure you have them all in a spot, label them correctly, and again, stay informed about industries and understanding that a lot of this stuff can change with time. So the same email that we use today sometimes isn't the same email that we could use the next go around. It depends on what the customer is seeing, what's current trends that are happening in the marketplace when it comes to what emails are coming out. Sometimes there's a trend for one type of email that comes out for a while and then it just loses speed. So you want to stay informed about what changes are happening in the marketplace and what could affect the outcome of your emails when it goes to those clients. And, just keep it in mind, like, again, the better that you're organized, the more that you're reviewing, the more that you're researching, the better that these templates are going to get. And again, it ultimately results in better sales, better conversations, better next steps. So Gail, should we get to that part of the episode where we review it and recap it for everybody?
Exactly. Yeah. This is going to wrap up the end of the using research and feedback to craft compelling emails episode. I hope that you've taken something from today's episode to implement into your email campaigns to make them even better than they already are. Now, today we covered why research is essential. We talked about how to incorporate insights into your emails to make them specific to your customers. We've talked about gathering and using that feedback to adjust messaging based on those results. And we talked about creating a system to continuously improve, to always be developing, always be maintaining that status quo of continuous service. And then just remember that the more effort that you put into understanding your prospects and refining that messaging and refining your email campaigns, the higher your response rates and opportunities are going to be, and the better success you're going to have in your sales. So in the next episode, we'll be exploring writing subject lines and openings that are absolutely impossible for our prospects to ignore. So stay tuned. And until then, go out there and research, test, and adjust, and keep improving your emails and maximizing your impact. Happy selling.
All right. See you later. Make sure you send us some of those emails. Love to see them. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye, everyone.
Bye for now.